Hi everyone, it's Shannon. Welcome to my channel, The Daily DIYer. Today's video actually combines two of my absolute favorite things, Dollar Tree and home renovation. So you can see behind me here, this is actually the counter that I do all of my projects from. So you see this counter a lot. You may not see the wall that's in front of it a lot. I did do a whole video on the command station that's above it, so I will link that video down below if you want to check that out next. But I've always really wanted some type of backsplash on this counter. Just something to add some texture and some interest to, but I never really wanted to spend a lot of money because, like I said, you guys don't really see it a whole lot. I'm really the only one that sees it. But when you come across amazing things at Dollar Tree that's gonna save you a bundle, I am all for that. So what I ended up finding on a just random trip to Dollar Tree were these sticky fake tiles. They say self-adhesive wall tiles. They are pretty bendable and flexible, but I know with a little bit of extra love that I'm going to give to them and adding them to this wall, I bet you're probably not even gonna be able to tell that they are fake tiles from Dollar Tree. So the space that I want to tile is just above the countertop space, kind of similar to what your kitchen would have underneath cabinets. I don't want to do the whole wall. So this space actually spans 7 foot, so I only had to purchase 7 tiles. And you can't get cheaper than that. So my plan is to actually do some updating to the tiles. I'm not a big fan of this dark color. I want to keep it light and bright and airy in here, especially for filming. I want light to be able to bounce around, so I'm going to turn these tiles white.
Before we jump into this tutorial, I do want to say I ran into a few snags here and there, and I want you guys to not have to deal with those problems. So make sure to watch the entire tutorial so you can learn from my mistakes.
So to turn these tiles white, I actually just ran into Walmart and I found this spray paint. It says Ultimate High Gloss, and of course I grabbed the white. And the reason I did that is because I want these to look more like real tiles. So like a glass tile or a porcelain tile that's gonna have that really high gloss sheen to it. On top of that, I also grabbed this clear gloss spray. So that way I can spray the top of the spray paint and seal it up. That way, if I get any paint or something on the backdrop or the backsplash, I'll be able to kind of wipe it clean and it won't damage the spray paint. So this spray paint does say that it bonds to plastic, so that's why I grabbed this one too. So I'm going to take these all outside and get to spray painting. All right, so it is pretty windy today and I'm afraid these are gonna go flying because they're so light. But I have this carpet tape. You can find this at Walmart too. I believe that's where I got it. But it's basically just like a double-sided tape. So I'm gonna put a little patch of the tape on the back of each one of these tiles. That way I can stick them down onto the tarp and my tiles won't go flying away as I am trying to spray paint them.
Alright, so take this part with a grain of salt because this honestly did not really end up working out well. I'm just showing you how fast it actually would have been to spray paint these tiles if it would have worked out. So what I did was just give these one coat, and I could tell right away something was not going quite right. But after one coat, this is what they started looking like. I'm not sure why they did this, especially since the paint said it was made for plastic. So I tried a second coat. It looked a lot better. It was starting to cover, and I knew I was probably going to need a third coat at this point.
All right, so I have the tiles outside drying. I have the second coat on them. They're looking a lot better. I was a little bit scared after that first coat of spray paint because it wasn't really looking like it was going to cover everything. It was kind of pooling in some spots. But now that I have a second coat on it, it's looking a lot better. I likely will probably have to do a third coat. We will see. I'm gonna let the second coat sit and dry really good before I go at it again. But while that's drying, I need to tackle the wall behind me. I need to take things off. I need to take the faceplates off and pretty much just clear it out so I have room to work when it's time to actually apply it.
It doesn't seem to matter how often I clean my craft room. I don't know what it is, but somehow it just gets so dirty and so unorganized so quickly. If you can relate, give this video a thumbs up. It definitely feels good to get all of this torn apart so that I can reorganize it again.
Alright, so I decided to figure out plan B because I just don't think that the spray paint is going to work. It's not really drying how I want, and there was some bugs out there and I just kind of wiped it and the spray paint came right off. So I just don't trust it, especially being on a wall. We're going to be painting and who knows what else, and I want to be able to wipe it off. So, handy dandy chalk paint, right? I know this stuff is pretty well sticks to anything. So I gave it a test on a different square, and this is just one coat obviously, so it's going to take probably 3 at least, but it's not coming off at all. It's not smearing, it's not smudging, and that's what I'm looking for. So it's a matte finish, which is not what I'm looking for. So what I'll do is I'll put a few coats of the chalk paint on, and then I'll go over it with like a gloss polyacrylic, so that it will shine it up, hopefully cover up some of the brush strokes. But what I'm going to do instead of painting them first is I'm going to put them on the wall first, and then I will work on painting them, and we'll see how this all comes together.
So I knew I wanted my unfinished cut edge down in the corner where you wouldn't see it so much. So I started on this right side of the wall and started measuring for holes that I would need to cut for the outlets and the light switches.
Alright, so there it is. The hardest part, honestly, was just measuring to make sure I cut out the holes right. Just take your time. We just finished a bunch of drywall, even in here, so it was way easier cutting into this versus drywall. And now it's time to paint this backsplash. So I'm going to use my Rust-Oleum chalked in the color Linen White chalk paint. And I'm going to use my vintage tonality paintbrushes. I usually use these for furniture, but I think it's going to work really well on this backsplash. I'll link those down in the description box below. You can find those on Amazon. I love those. I also have my I also have my painter's tape out because I'm going to tape off the wall and the countertop and get to painting.
After I got all of the edges taped off, I came in with a smaller paintbrush and got down into all of those faux grout lines before coming in with a larger paintbrush, and made sure I just did the same brush stroke, so right to left. Or if you're going to do up and down, make sure you stay consistent. Whichever way you go, I would suggest doing right to left or left to right, just so you get that kind of horizontal look that these tiles sort of already have. So I just did a couple at a time, that way my paint wouldn't dry when I did the grout lines and it would blend in well whenever I went back over it with the larger paintbrush. Now I want to stop here and mention, do these steps opposite of what I have done here. So I put on 3 coats of chalk paint and then I went over it with this clear gloss. However, when I came back the next day, and you'll see here in just a few frames what happened, but you really want to seal your tiles first, and then you want to use your chalk paint over the seal. And the reason being is, after I put on 2 coats of the sealer, I came back in and noticed that whatever these tiles are made of, the plastic or the paint that is on top of the plastic, ended up bleeding through all of those layers of paint, and I had this really weird reddish tone coming through. So you can see it right here, and the camera doesn't even pick up on it. It was pretty noticeable. So you can see here some of that coming through. So what I did is, since at this point my tiles were already sealed, I went back over them with my chalk paint again, and I only needed 1 coat and it covered just fine. Some spots needed a little bit more than that, but I would just highly recommend seal your tiles first, then add your chalk paint, and then reseal on top of your chalk paint again. I let this all dry, and then I was able to add my face plates back onto the outlets and the light switches. So of course my craft room got a good cleaning and everything got hung up back onto the walls. And so I wanted to give you another look at the before of this space, and then now the cleaned up after, along with the addition of the new backsplash. So I'm absolutely so happy with this. This would have only cost me $7 had I not had the run-in issue with the spray paint not working. But I still think having to spend $7 more for a total of $14 was not bad at all to get this really kind of stylish look. And it was pretty simple. You could definitely do this in a couple hours, depending on how big your space is. I would absolutely love to hear where you would add this backsplash in your home. Leave those down in the comments below for me. I'll also put a link to this tiered tray down in the description box below. You can find that on Amazon. If you haven't yet, please give this video a thumbs up for me. That helps out my channel so much. Make sure to subscribe for weekly DIYs, tutorials, and new inspiration. And thank you so much again. I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.